Welcome to Emergent Behavior, where we explore this moment in time just before artificial intelligence changes the world as we know it, where we talk to the builders and creators, entrepreneurs and engineers, where we ask questions to which we don't actually know the answers to. I'm your host, Ada Pai. I was built in the Czech Republic by Infinite.cz, and my voice is AI generated. Welcome to Emergent Behavior, where we explore the frontiers of AI and its real applications. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Pratik Desai, the founder of Kissan, a pioneering AI startup in the agricultural sector. Pratik and his team are developing cutting-edge, voice-based AI assistants designed to bridge the knowledge gap between agricultural research and farmers, particularly in emerging markets like India. In this insightful conversation, we delve into the challenges faced by farmers in accessing and implementing critical agricultural knowledge, the development of Kissan's multilingual voice-based AI assistant and its impact on farmer empowerment, the creation of Deno, a vision-based AI model for crop disease detection, the complexities of navigating the agricultural technology landscape and the regulatory environment for AI in India, the future of AI in agriculture and its potential to revolutionize the industry, Pratik's personal journey as an immigrant entrepreneur in the United States, and the challenges of navigating the immigration system. The fascinating prospect of digital emulation and the potential for AI to preserve memories and connections with loved ones who have passed away. Pratik's unique perspective as both an AI expert and someone deeply connected to agriculture makes his insights invaluable. His work with Kissan is not just shaping the future of farming, but also demonstrating the power of AI for social good. Whether you're a farmer, agronomist, tech enthusiast, or simply curious about the future of food and technology's impact on our lives, this episode offers valuable insights and inspiration. You'll discover how AI can be harnessed to address real-world challenges, empower communities, and contribute to a more sustainable and equitable future for agriculture and beyond. You can connect with Kissan at the agricopilot.ai website. As always, if you enjoy the show, please take a moment to follow Emergent Behavior on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. Your support helps us reach more listeners and continue to bring you the best in AI and tech innovation. You can also subscribe to our newsletter at emergentbehavior.co to receive exclusive content, including detailed notes on each episode. And don't forget to connect with me on Twitter, numeric 8 TEA. Now, let's dive into the world of AI-powered agriculture with Kissan's Pratik Desai. Hey Pratik, what is Kissan?
So Kissan is a agri-vertical generative AI startup, and we are trying to build applications that helps farmer uh, because there is a lot of problem in terms of knowledge dissemination from the knowledge that get produced in universities, agriculture businesses to the farmer, and that's one of the main reason the agriculture industry is very far behind in terms of implementing the best practices and all. So what we are trying to do, we are creating multilingual voice-based uh, co-pilots for farmers, which basically they can just have as a conversational tool. They can click a button, start talking to the knowledge base that we have been curating, and get the base information that's available for them. And in this, while we are trying to help the farmer, our approach is to actually enable agribusinesses, help them to create this co-pilot. So it's like a like enterprise applications basically for agribusinesses where they can actually host their knowledge, and through their existing customer they can deploy their knowledge, the products, conversational commerce, and all kind of applications.
So it's like a chat GPT for farmers. Would that be a good accurate description?
It's okay, so it's a enterprise chat gpt, like the assistant API for
Right.
farmers.
Okay. So here you have and I guess your primary customer base right now is in India.
Correct.
Okay. So you have a farmer in India uh, can take their Android phone. They can go to the App Store. They can download the app. Once they download the app, it is a voice interface or text interface. So they can either
Right.
type in queries or they can ask queries. They can do that in their local language. Is that
Correct.
correct?
Correct.
So, so it can be in Hindi or Tamil or any of like I guess India is like a lot of languages, like
A
a
lot of
couple of
language.
hun a couple of hundred or whatever, and you guys support what like 20 or 30 right now.
Yeah, we started with 10, expanding to 15, and we are also adding like a lot of support for the Southeast Asia, like Vietnamese and Thai and Malay, Indonesian, Bangla, Urdu, like try to cover the most of the developing nations where we can support language.
So and then the farmer can start piping a query or start asking a query. And so they go ahead and what is like a typical first query that a farmer would make.
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question. So surprisingly, in early days, the farmer will just say hello because
Just
they
hello,
sometimes
just is
yeah,
anyone hearing me? Is anyone listening?
kind of, because it's very surprising. Like AI is still like in a stage where if you get greeted, that is fine, but it's like they don't know what to ask. It's like in early days, it was like a very new tool, but then we have seen where once they realize what it is and how like available it can be, or like the vast knowledge it has, we have seen farmer going like literally asking very deep questions, and like like the workflow become very nice for them because they understand now. And some of them, they we have seen even the questions where just they start a recording button and then don't say anything at all because they are just overwhelmed to say anything. So that was used to be the case. But then in terms of questions, mostly they are asking about like a typical daily routine questions like, hey, I have a problem, I have this space, what should I use, or what is the best time to grow this thing, where will I get the best prices for my crop. And like there are many typical queries that we were not supporting, like asking real-time weather data and things like that, so we are also starting to add all those things. But it's like for us it has been learning process to, we were working in agri-tech, so we knew like what happens. Like I come from agriculture background, so I know like what's the best biggest problems are. But then when actually something goes inside their hand, like they intuitively what they ask before they actually get familiar with it, that is something was our journey to actually get those things. And that has been helping out a lot, like just putting the application in while let them talk, understand what they're trying to say. And we are focusing on one demography, so for it's us, like we are not trying to capture all type of demography, what type of question they will ask, and try to model, like so topic modeling and all those are becoming kind of now intuitive for us, so we understand that this is kind of very much workflow, and that's helping us to kind of build an application for the businesses.
So, how many, like roughly, what's the ballpark of the number of users that you have right now? Like 10,000, 3,000
we have,
more.
we have more than 110K farmers who have been used as a unique user. We have 10 to 15,000 monthly active user. And the applications, right? So the application that we built to help farmers, that's basically like organically grown. We haven't done anything in marketing, or like it just kind of shared somewhere on the social media, it picked up. But then we also started kind of realizing that we cannot keep expanding the user base, like it was actually going very rapidly in the early days. So we have kind of stop working a lot on the farmer facing website right now. And the reason being, like, we want to figure out the revenue model first, right? It's a startup, we cannot just keep running and go to the level that India has so many farmers. Like there are like 150 million people actually associated with agriculture and all, maybe more, like directly and indirectly. So uh, my ultimate motive was, let's first figure out a revenue model, and then we go back and then start capturing and adding more features, because as soon as I add more features, there will be like another like a spike on the users. So I'm like trying to kind of mellow down the growth on the consumer side before we actually start generating revenue.
So you you had like strong growth in number of users. You got up to like 100,000, 150,000. individual unique users, and then about 10 to 15,000 monthlies. But then you also have the cost base because they don't pay, the farmers are not paying anything for it. It's a free service
Correct.
for them. So you don't have as yet a defined revenue model. Is it costing a lot to serve the queries? Like is the LLM and usage like significant?
Actually, see, I think it's not if you compare to other consumer applications that going on. Like we are actually trying to minimize the cost as much as possible. But I think the problem is on the other side. Like I have been bootstrapping this thing whole myself, so I also have to kind of see the growth rate and figure out at what time I will run out of my credits that Microsoft has been very generous to give us basically. So the day we launched, within a week, Microsoft found out they kind of give us like a level 4 sponsorship. So I never had the problem of running out of the credit in early days. But then I realized if we keep growing, then I will never have a chance to actually build a business out of it because we just keep running. And from our previous applications that we built for agri-tech in India before Kissan, our experience was that farmer cannot be monetized in any developing nations. Like even in outside, in developing nations, it's mostly the businesses that you have to work with who already sell like physical thing or physical services to them. You have to monetize them, not the farmer themselves. And that was already our like first rule that we are never going to monetize that. Like it's not possible right now because of the income they have. So so we can keep running it, but I know that within 6 or 8 months I'll run out of that credit too, like very quickly. And that's a realization that like, okay, let's start building something for enterprises because we had like a lot of inbound coming out from the businesses just like, hey, we want this thing in our app on website. Can you actually build this thing, or can you have a platform? So we now build it. We have revenue coming in, so now I'm confident that now I can actually start going back, because the ultimate goal is still to educate farmer. Now either we do it directly from the public knowledge and the things that we curate, or we help the businesses who already do and work with them. Like businesses have the same problem, like they produce like so many different type of variety of pesticide, the new versions are coming in, or the fertilizer or the seeds or like equipments, but like the farmer, it never reaches to the farmer. Like, so helping even them to kind of deliver the knowledge, that is something, our ultimate
So
goal is.
basically, what's happened is you have the farmer income levels in most emerging markets are too low to support kind of like subscription software
Correct.
services. So you have to find a third-party monetization strategy.
Correct.
And one of the third-party monetization strategies is to work with enterprises who are already selling goods to farmers to
Correct.
provide, like on their website, they can have a this kind of agriculture advisor that
Advisory
brand.
mode, yes.
So it's kind of a white label. You kind of white label the product, and then it's under their branding or something like that.
Correct. Yeah. So right now for all of them, we are working. We are like collaborating with like powered by Kissan AI. So I don't think they have a problem saying that. But yes, so we are enabling like a few use cases that we learned throughout, like running this for first early months. Like the farmers thing, first question was advisory. Second thing, they wanted to actually complete the purchase hook. Like, hey, I have a question regarding my crop and something going on inside, and you are advising me to do this, but like what is the action, right? I want to buy something now, but I don't have anything to buy inside your website. So that's what we now enabling for the businesses. They're like, hey, you provide advisory and you can also now suggest the product. So it's like conversational commerce enabling inside their app. So now they can actually like reduce two costs. First is running the customer call center for just the advisories like in every language 24/7, and second is increasing the direct sell, because the biggest problem is middlemen. Like the middle layers are actually the very big problem for the the profit margins for the businesses.
So does that mean like at some point in that chat conversation with the farmer, and this is on a, let's say, a some farm fertilizer branded kind of experience, and at some point the farmer says, okay, I trust your advice of the fertilizer, I want to buy it, and then you put in like a link to the purchase. Is that is
Correct.
that is that is that what happened?
Yes, yes. Yeah, so whatever we're describing, say like, hey, for your particular problem, this and this can be the solution. This one work best. There's a link here to buy it. and we also identify using like the LLM, and also like some of the like workflow that has been defined by the customer, that like if this is going outside of the realm of advisory, we also have like call to expert kind of links you can provide that. So if they really don't want to buy from online, they can still call and complete the call. So yes, this is what we are basically enabling for them.
That's amazing. And just in terms of usage, do you see what is the percentage you see of voice versus text?
40/60, at least from the India
40%
context.
voice.
Yeah, India context, we are seeing a lot of voice. Actually, the voice has been, so when we started, we were native voice, but then we started like getting requests from like urban gardeners or like someone who just trying things out on their terraces. Like yes, we are targeting farmers and trying to solve, even though they have been doing like practices for so long, sometimes they have new questions about like, because weather and climate is changing very rapidly. So but then there are like a whole bunch of people who are doing like in urban areas doing gardening or like growing and spending time on terrace, and they don't know mostly anything about any plants, right? They just like bring something from nursery, put it down. It's like, hey, let's see if it's gonna grow some flowers, and it's not going to, because they are not like taking care of it very well. So they are also one of the like kind of rapid increasing user that we saw, and for them they wanted to have a text. So like we got like rapid request like we want text. So it's like, okay, we're gonna enable text, but earlier we just wanted to have like a native voice to voice, and we still see like a lot of people using voice, like not majority but still like 40%, which is like a good amount.
So when you have the farmers and they are using the application, 40% is by voice. At first, you started off, you want it to be majority, you want it to be native voice, but then you had the need for text from urban customers. So now you have both the text and voice options. Um, do you also have like an image option? Are people able to take photos and send it?
Yeah. So I think throughout our journey, we actually, if you, I don't know if you're aware, like we also started training the agri-vertical LLMs, like because we wanted to reduce cost significantly, and we wanted to natively embed the knowledge, which is like a challenge. But like we can go and discuss later. But the goal was to take a like a small model. We had like a huge amount of data, so create instruction tune model and try to serve users through that, so we can reduce down the cost of LLM and also keep the our like knowledge inside in house. So we started training model called Denu, like the symbol I'm wearing. Denu is like for Kam Denu, like it's a cow, like a holy cow kind of symbol. It's like there's a little big myth around it. But for that next level, we recently also trained the vision model with the like 100,000 disease images, so the farmers can take a picture and start talking about what's happening. Like there are applications who can detect the disease, but you cannot have conversation. You'll say like yes or no if this disease exists or not. We wanted to enable the conversation, so they can say like, hey, I have a whitefly infestation, what should I do, something like that, and then we can actually, they can go more. And so we trained it, and this is something we are going to enable soon for like everyone, that they can actually take a picture. Right now that particular model, and because the open source availability of the models for the vision LLM were not great when we trained it, now I think with the llama 3 and other models, we are going to have multilingual multi-model thing. So the vision model that we created for disease was just like English. Now we are working where we want to have multilingual multimodal disease detection, so natively you can take a picture and start talking in your language, and that's going to be something I see like very useful for farmers.
So you have this new model Deno, which is a fine tune. I noticed it was a fine tune of QN. Is it
The vision model is finding on QN. Yes.
QN, right? Which is actually a Chinese model from Alibaba.
Yeah.
And why did you choose QN at that time? Because I think the Lava models were also available around the same time.
Yeah. No. True. So I think there was a licensing thing which I saw early days when we selected it. There's like a CC by NC, like that, which I don't like the model at all. Those kind of licenses. Yes, they are. yeah, someone trying to get a release model, but literally it's not useful for open source. Like when you have a CC by NC, it's just like it's just like a marketing exercise. I see when you have CC by NC, like for enterprise customer, they're like, hey, we have released a model, it has good eval, but you can't use it. So I really don't like that approach. So QN had like a 700 or 600 million user until you go out and reach out to them. So like, hey, that's good enough, right? To begin with, and from the beginning, like I'm just trying to build something where we don't go and run into like this trouble going forward, because anyway we're trying to build something like have a solid base and build foundation on top. Like the agriculture is not running away anyway, so I don't want to kind of create like a quick hype thing and then fall into trouble later on. So selected QN, and I think QN's uh, uh, the like there is a forgot, like I'll provide data, but there is something in the QN and the lava approach in terms of like the clip that the QN's kind of coming out to be better. I read like some analysis somewhere, and
So
I'll
clip
find.
is the detection is the image detection coder, right?
Correct. Yeah. So
Yeah.
there is some encoder level detail. So like my team member who has been like working with it, like there's like a we made a, like a choice not like just on the license, but also some technical aspect. And but then later on, I saw the Lava versions coming out, which were not controlled by CCYNC. I think from based on Mistral. So we'll see. Like there's a friend who's working on taking Gamma, the Google model, and they added Siglip on top of it to enable Gamma to have a vision capabilities. So and Gamma has a like a very huge vocabulary to support Indic languages. So the vocab is really good. So people are already trying out like many Indian languages natively inside Gamma. So my goal would be take a Gamma multilingual and use the modified version for vision, and then the add the vision capability on top of it. So uh, it's like so many parallel things we are doing right now that
Yeah.
it become.
So let's talk a little bit about the Denu construction, because Denu, you guys ended up you fine tuning. So for three major crops, what are the three major crops that you fine tuned
So
it for?
for the vision, we had wheat, maize, and rice.
Wheat, maize, and rice. And for 10 diseases to
Yeah,
start off
the,
with,
the, the first
for
one, yeah.
10 for 10 diseases. And then once you what so it's basically image detection, right? It's basically classification. Basically, what is the disease type, and what is the resource type, and what is the disease type? Would you say that is that the
So
result that you can have?
what we are trying to do is like we are doing a lot of synthetic data over here. So in a sense, we first pass this like so we already have the like when we curated the data set, that's the where the key is. Like the data set doesn't only have the name of the disease or like some minor condition around it. We are actually creating a lot of synthetic data around the situation and the disease. And when we train and build a whole data set, we are adding lot of information beside the disease, right? Like uh, what are the different symptoms for the disease, uh, like how to take care of it, how to prevent it, what are the solution available for this location. So when we curate a data set for every image, the description would be not just the name of the disease but lot of other information that actually combined go inside the training. So when
So it's
someone
almost
actually
like the input data you prepare as a Wikipedia page for each disease, with kind of the image being like the image, and then the like a Wikipedia kind of
Kind of, yeah,
article.
yeah, kind of, yes. Like, but we have like a five criteria that we define, and we stick to that, and try to kind of from our knowledge base try to add some information around it. So, but yeah, this is kind of simple. It's an instruction, like when you tune with the instruction, you have like a question and like a answer kind of delivered for it, right? So in the training, what we do, we take an image and we create like instruction set with the image for question answer around that particular image. So now we have kind of trained the model to answer questions, not just the detected disease.
So when you prepare that data set, is that a English data set, or is that also a multilingual? Is that a, you have all the
So
languages already there in the input data that you throw in,
for
or
the vision model, as I said, like we just use English one basically,
I
because
see.
for us it was like first kind of experiment itself, that like can we actually have some additional knowledge embedded inside, like in the model, right? Because QN is like far behind from GPTV. Our goal was say, hey, GPTV is expensive. So if we like, what is our objective? Like GPTV is expensive. We cannot deploy in the world, uh, and for the farmers who is not going to pay, we have to have like something very cheap. The QN was not there at all. So, and the good thing is our application scope is narrow. Like, hey, we are just doing for disease. We don't care if it identify bus or the road or the sign or do OCR. We want to kind of have a disease and a condition around disease. So so that's why, like, we curated this data set. Goal was to do it for the English. And then as I said, like for the next version we are going to go for like, that was just a 10 disease. We have now 55 disease data set already created. So it's going to cover like a 10 to 12 different disease, sorry, crops. And then the goal would be to say like, hey, first again train in English, see the improvement, then add the multilingual data. So it's like a granular kind of, you go up. But the Denu version that we released just as a like a on Llama 2 with the Open Hathi, we collaborated with Sarvam. That we were like bilingual. We had Hindi and English basically as part of the data set that we curated. And so our like natural progress is going toward creating a multimodal multilingual, where we embed our agri knowledge, we embed the disease knowledge, and create like a something smaller and efficient for very like a vertical specific thing, which may not score well in everything else, but should be good enough for one specific vertical.
So, what is like, what's your most frequent use case right now that you have with the farmers? You have like 10,000, 15,000 like regular daily actives. What is the most frequent use case that they use it for?
So most frequent would be like related to market access, or like finding out uh, the queries are related to where to sell, how to sell, where would I get the most price. So it's related to economy basically, the first one. The second one are related to pest kind of thing, like they have some kind of problem inside their farm. What should I use it, how to prevent it, what are the natural way of doing it, are there like some organic way, and those kind of things are there. Like, so the mostly first, because there can be like a 10 different type of query regarding market access, but the market access is the first theme. Second thing around like the health of the crop, and then it will be like just like a basic question about exploring new things, about hey, what are the new techniques to do this thing, can I grow avocado in particular area, like something like that, right? So it's like those kind of questions basically come later on, not a lot.
It's interesting because I heard a story of on YouTube of a farmer in India who started growing strawberries after learning it from YouTube,
Yeah.
and everyone in his area thought he was nuts. And he just was like Googling and YouTubing, and he found out that for some certain months of the year, the climate and the soil was okay. You just need a little bit of fertilizer, and he went ahead and he spent his money and he bought these things and he started planting strawberries in India. And of course, it's like 100 times more lucrative than them existing crop.
But that's what we are trying to actually enable. If you look at it, so this knowledge, like the person who he went to Google, YouTube, he could have understanding of how to use YouTube and Google in perfect way, read languages, like read description and all, like find out the exact way to implement it. Now that's probably not possible for many of those farmers who have problem with literacy, languages, like all the different accessibility problem, right? And making this knowledge available through AI, we can basically have them kind of also learn, because now you can ask in Hindi or Tamil how to grow strawberry in this particular area and region, and then we will try to kind of from what we will find out from our knowledge is what varieties are probably possible for that. And we do have like a very similar story that we had a farmer from like Chhattisgarh district. This is not very one of the richest one. But and The farmer was like trying to figure out something. He was growing this geranium kind of plant which used to create oils. It's like a aromatic oil that goes into processing, and then the oil companies just basically buy, or like get the oil out of it, and then there is a lot of agri waste out of once the oil is extracted. So this farmer has been trying to look out for something he can do with the agri waste, because sometimes he may have to even pay to get rid of the agri waste. So what he can do, so he comes to the app, start asking question. He had like kind of some kind of knowledge that some people in some countries are already doing it, or some research has been going on. So he started using it, start asking questions, say like what should I do. Then he found out that like there is a way of making air fresheners out of this agri waste. Then what are the chemical composition he need to find out. So he do like ask question, find out, do experiment it, create some air freshener, and he actually successfully makes it. He tries out with his friends, they love it. He now have a startup registered where he's actually producing. So this has been we've been out for a year, and we already have a story like this, who like people have become agripreneur, like some farmer who kind of just figure out how to make air freshener from agri waste, and now he's like a entrepreneur.
So amazing. So he starts off growing some geranium derivative, and which is used for some essential oil production by some companies. He ends up with a lot of agricultural waste. He normally has to pay someone to dispose of it. He goes to your your AI bot, starts talking to it, and he figures out that he can make some air freshener from it, and then he tries it out. He makes the air freshener, and then mount here as a product
Yeah,
rather than just a commodity.
he's selling on
Uh,
Flipkart and Amazon.
that's amazing. So and this is like their plastic. Like he was not like E2 maybe use a YouTube more whatever, because it was just simply too complex.
Yeah, so in his particular story, he could have used YouTube, but then the problem is the information overload. There are like so many people talking about it. I don't think there was like very specific information about geranium. But even if there are any, he said like according to him, it was so much difficult to find out which one worked best. So he just kept asking AI the question and try to identify like what is the base, compare between this and this, what is available, what chemical I can buy, those kind of thing, right? So that is something he will have to read like a 5 different 10 different pages and identify the perfect solution to make the air freshener. So it just making this like it's like using a Google, reading 10 pages and using Perplexity to find out like, hey, this is a summary, let's go on with it, something like that.
Right.
And when you add
So
language to
it's
that,
just
it's
just too
like
much information for him to effectively identify what is the correct solution. And
yeah,
so kind of it's a curation. They get a curation. Data trustworthiness problem too. There's just a lot of like trash beta on Google, on
correct.
YouTube as well.
And also language like this, folks maybe they can read like English, but it like when you are actually exploring the websites, there will be a lot of technical jargon, because that is something I have seen with this whole industry is the people on the top do like very maybe cutting edge research in creating some climate resilient fertilizers or seeds and things like that. But then the farmers are like very far away from the reality for them, because they really don't work with the farmers. Like for the tech, it's not that much around. Like you can, the most of the tech folk can read, the distance between the research and the people who implement is not that much in tech. But over here is so far that if you go to any conferences or like meet any people who are working on the research side, or because this is kind of research issue in a way, like where you can extract some oil and what kind of chemical you add. But when they publish these things, like universities and all, they are publishing in the jargon that farmer never understand, and they really don't care. So I have seen people are just talking and blabbering about like a resilient agriculture, researcher doing that work. And when I go and talk to farmer in the real world, like they literally don't care. Like they don't have any information about what is actually changing in the climate. But then we have like so much money and the knowledge being produced and money being spent to kind of change the climate, but you are not taking that knowledge to the farmer in their simple language, in like in a way they can understand and implement. So that is the gap which I see. Same thing like the this farmer probably uh, had a knowledge, he can read English, but then like comprehend like some research thing material coming out and to compare two different chemicals, one say hydrogen peroxide and one say something else. Now how is going to kind of compare the difference between that, like what is the base residues, what is not toxic, where should I buy it? Those kind of thing can become like easy, where he can keep going like, is it toxic, is it not, like you can actually go back and forth in AI and kind of communicate that. This is not possible on the Google side, right? So this is something I think is like a very big value addition. And now if we can do that by voice in his own language, then suddenly it's open up like, just they can just talk whole day if they want, basically, kind of scenarios.
Interesting. Do you think you guys don't have real time information yet? Like, because you said they were asking for weather, but
Yeah. So so whether on the market, so these are the two things that we have kind of solved in a way. We are just waiting for the feature to be released, like just testing it out a little bit, where we are ingesting a lot of market data and the weather data using text to SQL to even animal analytics on top of the data. So they can just ask like, what is the base time to sell this thing, which market give me the base price. So that is feature is there, we are waiting for it to enable, just like not few going through some tasting phase. But in terms of real-time textual and contextual information, that we are not adding it, like some using like a SERP, which uh, uh, some of the website uses this day, basically just extract the top Google result and summarize it. So we are not trying to use that one, because for us there's the important thing about the data curation part. So we don't want to kind of create summary of a junk. Like if we think the first 10, 15 results on the Google are junk, then the summary of that will be also junk. So what we're trying to do is like, uh, the industry, the what, like any vertical very specific thing, it's not, it doesn't change that much, right? The farmer, when they're asking for base practices question, they are not looking for the news, right? So for that purpose, whenever the data go inside, we make sure that we have done like some annotation work, cleaning of the data. So we, and then like we are running RAG on our model to basically give them the summarized answer.
so basically, I think in is a 2007 study by a guy called Robert Jensen. And what he found was he was measuring the price of fish in Kerala in South India. And what he found was the moment you introduce mobile phones, you saw dramatic changes in the price of fish, which edged towards the price in the market. And the reason was because a lot of times for the fishermen, if they came back a little bit too late, their regular buyer would have already fulfilled their purchasing for the day and would have left. And then the fishermen would often like dump or sell the fish at very, very low prices. And instead, at the moment they had mobile phones, they could check how many other dealers there were in the area, and then they could then meet up with those dealers and then sell on the fish to them. And so they found that there are quite a dramatic change in the market as soon as you have this introduction of this technology. So in that sense, as you introduced this AI technology in India to farmers, have you seen this kind of dramatic change in group economics that they do?
Yeah. So for our particular app, like we haven't been out there for a long to kind of observe, like thing, but we like throughout our journey building applications for farmers, we have seen where uh, many farmers were trying to differentiate themselves by doing organic or natural farming, and trying to get like a better prices in the market, because the market mostly on the, like in India on that level, they still do not differentiate between the prices of organic versus the regular produces. So WhatsApp and WhatsApp group has been some kind of really catalytic for them, where they are using groups, creating, finding out people who care for the organic or the natural produces, and selling them directly through that, basically. So like as you said, like finding a dealer, they are identifying and finding buyers in WhatsApp groups, and suddenly without having like a central website or things like that, they are just using mobile phones to kind of distribute, then they're hand delivering that.
So in China, there is a movement through this app called Pinduoduo, PDD, and
Yes.
PDD enabled group buying from farmers. So what you would do is you would have the farmer selling, say, peaches or whatever, and they would do a video on like the peaches from the farm. And then a group of people, let's say in Shanghai, would group together and say 10 people together, and they'd each agree to buy, let's say, 5 pairs each. And then the farmer would ship like, 50 peaches of theirs or whatever to one person. And then that person basically distributes out. And then, they have the 50 peaches has been bought. And it's really the farmer would get a high price because he's getting closer to retail. And the buyers will get a lower price because they're getting closer to the farm.
Yeah.
And so Pinduoduo was quite successful in doing this. I don't know how profitable of a business it is, to be honest, but they were quite successful in one of the things that China is known for, this kind of group line behavior. Have you seen kind of like that kind of thing start to happen in India?
So we tried like ourselves, try to do this thing like as a, like, the parent company of Kissan, like the one we started to actually help farmers with AI tools, this T30 platform, where we try to create like very similar in a way, like, let farmer create their own store, create their, like, marketplace. Basically it's a marketplace where they can list out their things, and the consumer can find, identify what they want to buy, something very similar to that. But for India perspective, I haven't seen this thing picking up as China has, basically. So there are very like micro patterns basically in buying and purchasing and producing. Logistics is not still there, where a farmer producing from, let's say, western part of India can easily just ship anything to the eastern part or the south part. So the transportation, logistics and things still not there, so still it's very local. So that's what we realized. We started with this kind of very much similar concept, like, hey, let's enable anyone to buy from anywhere. And then we started running into this problem where who is going to ship, is it going to be available in 2 days? There's also trust factor is also very big, like from the China to India, like, the culturally, that's a trust factor of someone shipping it, and then are you going to get the right thing or not, and like how do you actually deal with it. And with the there's like also maybe limitations of democracy is that, like, if you go from one state to another state, the law changes significantly. So how are you going to take care of the different state laws when a farmer actually end up sending something wrong, right? Like, we take, because produce is already kind of rotten while it reaches to from Surat to Bangalore, something like that. So there are many challenges which were actually holding farmers, like consumer, to start buying. Basically there were so many inquiries for mangoes and dragon fruit, like, we can, because we started letting farmers list it. We have like 500 plus farmers who are listing something on the platform, but the consumer then try to just directly reach out to them and talk to them and figure out some way. So there were many trade which were possible for mostly dry goods like a turmeric powder and all, but mostly to pick up, I think we lack, at least in India, we lack this logistic kind of thing, kind of missing right now. Transportation, trust factor. So it will take some time for sure,
So
but that's
it's
actually
basically not yet a single market yet. It's still
no.
fractured micro
Okay,
markets.
correct.
And then you have I guess the buyers are primarily in the urban areas, and the sellers are primarily in the rural areas. And then you have this trust deficit in really areas. You have different languages. You have different state laws on access. I guess access and is the pricing regulated as well for product?
So yeah, that's actually changes state by state. The agriculture is very touchy topic because of the one of the largest vote bank. Kind of, if you think about like the farmers being there, it's a state subject, not a federal subject. So not a federal government cannot control this everything actually. And then every time a state government changes depending upon the vote bank, like, so a lot of politics actually get played on agriculture and farmers in like countries like us. So that's one of the biggest challenge to kind of just tomorrow start disrupting like as anything on very large level, where you kind of claim that you're gonna just remove all the middle layer to like overnight, because that happened when the current government tried to bring some new farming laws, and there were a lot of protests. And according to many, the mostly the protests were driven by the middle layers, who were seeing that like the farmers getting unable to sell directly will kind of cut down their costs. So and there's so many things kind of, the farmers are also like in US and like every other countries. Like we are seeing farming protests in France and Canada and everywhere, because that's like a one single group. If you look at it that way, it's like they all think probably similar way. Maybe me too, because I'm also a farmer, but very like to the ground thinking, working with the land. So no very hard dimension, you know, kind of
Yeah.
philosophy, just like simple thing.
So you did your PhD in Ohio, right? And then you worked in the Bay Area for quite a while. And one of the interesting things is like that safe Ardeno, which is your like disease detection, AI model. Can you kind of compare how difficult it would have been and how expensive it would have been to build the same thing, let's say 5 years ago? Like, 5 years ago, would that have been like a $10 million project that, a John Beer did? Is that, is there really a cost compression, from that time to
Oh,
now?
a lot. Like for example, like just 5 years back, like this level of conversational AI was anyway not possible at all, right? Because of the, like we started using GPT, the three GPT in 2020 October or November we got access. So we've been using it for a while. But even before that, like only the CNN models were there, just like you do basic training. Lot the data acquisition cost would be high. The models were not that expensive to build in terms of like just a training, because like just like a regular machine learning, traditional machine learning way, data curation cost was there. Like synthetic data generation that we are doing right now would be like very difficult to build. Like you need to have like an army to curate like 100,000 images, something like that. So many things in terms of technology and tooling wise has been possible through the Gen AI era that we see, because the capabilities are different, right? Like 5 years back, 10 years back, if I want to even imagine something which comprehend the question in terms of AI was not possible at all, right? Uh, because we did not have this level of like the transformer change everything, and not just transformer. I think GPT is something which actually brought some level of comprehension of what we are trying to say. Same thing in image detection is probably simple. Like you put an image, train through 10,000 images of the weak one crop, and then you're like, okay, we detected in some way, not another way, like something we do with the face and all. So the premise is change completely than just the detecting the disease. Like your enabling conversation is something which is more important, like identifying, taking a picture and saying what should I use for it, basically. So it will detect the disease and ask and provide you the information, go back and forth. And the natural progression is not the detecting the disease, right now. Let's say this is just the first step. For us, the goal is like, if you have seen the vision model where you can actually describe more than a leaf with the disease, right? We just right now we wanted to see if we can actually do conversation, but next goal is take a picture, holistic picture of the farmland, basically, where you have a leaf, you have land, you have weed, you have some other situation going around in the crop or a farm, from a drone or from a side or wherever, right? And now when you actually annotate these images and then kind of train, what will end up happening is that you do not have to run like a very specifically trained, like how we used to do CNN, but you can actually start talking to the picture of the farmland and say like, hey, why there are yellow spot and there's a weed spot and there's a dry land, what is the like a correlation between this, right? So this is something will start happening more level, on like on a larger level, where if you are if you are running a drone around right now, most of the drone related imaging startups are built on like CNN models, like so they have like a lot of pictures annotated, then they send a drone, take a picture, identify this yellow spot maybe having this disease, right? So those can completely change once we actually start having this one, where you do not have to have a one model trained for detecting few diseases. You can just have like a situation asking where it's like, hey, there is a leakage, a water leakage, it's making a big puddle out of it, like those kind of thing can be also enabled. And this is something can be like a natural progression, which is not possible 5 years back at all. Like uh, I think this is like we are going in the realm of like doesn't matter how many money you may have spent, they couldn't have kind of get comprehension of the level that we are getting right now.
Right on. So regardless of, I mean, 10 years ago, you could have a drone, you could build out these kind of specific disease detection models, you could do like an behavioral survey, but it wasn't a cost-effective solution for smaller farmers, especially in emerging markets.
True, true.
And even when it was, even if you tried to do it, the government tried to do it. The fact of the matter is that, some of the capabilities that you need to implement the product, voice inspection, IMRIC, etc., were not even possible for any amount of money. And now, all of a sudden, within the last couple of years, basically all of this, wide open space has opened up. Right?
Yeah. But think about
Um,
it, like a farmer having a personal drone, instead of using anything, just take a picture from the sky every few days, just then pass this image to, let's say, our next version of Deno, and say like, what's going on, and then it will just describe the whole farm field as like, this is going on, this is what, like describing the whole farmland, right? So that is something can be like, and maybe that can be automated too earlier going forward. Now earlier that was not possible, now this will be like very cost effectively possible, where just like, take a picture, and it will, you can log it what's going on, like you can take a picture every day, and it can go give you the natural progression of your farmland, doing the image analysis every day, adding the context window, adding it to context window, and select what is the natural progression of your farm, like, what are you doing wrong, what is the right thing that you're doing. Because this is a, like, most of the thing that we see is like it's not like a static thing that like you created the code and run it and it's over. Like this is like every day a smaller minor factor of change in weather, change in fertilizer amount, change in like, like in Napa Valley, change in like a fog can change, like, the yield or yield type, or all this thing, right? So it's not like a temporal thing that you are talking about, and that is why, the some time series based context would be like important. And this can enable for many application, not just like agriculture, where every day with the five factors are important for your final yield. Right now this is all human experience, right? the if you are growing grapes for 20 years, you know exactly what is going to happen, but that's like all in your brain with your experience, or something that you've been passed down from your father and generation, right? And some may have written the book, but then you don't give that book to a new guy and say like, hey, this is the book, figure out how it's going to work. No, you have to actually work. That can be basically possible. So that's kind of see that something probably will take time, but it's possible now basically with
it's
the.
the transfer of tacit knowledge, all of
Yeah.
the knowledge not written down in books, which is basically the majority of the knowledge in the world, is knowledge which is not written down in books. So I guess this is the part, especially if as the models get better in terms of taking in data from the conversation, which actually I think only a few guys are doing it right now. I think Midjourney is very specifically fine tuning the next generation model from user preferences from the last generation. And then ChatGPT free is tuning from incoming conversation. But ChatGPT Enterprise and the paid version are not tuning on your data. So the real question is like, how much user generated, we went through this user generated content era of YouTube, and how much of user generated content is actually happening right now. User generated training, where we're actually training the models by using them. It's not very clear, and so no one, I don't think a lot of people have a very clear understanding of how much that actually is. Are you
So
guys, for example, capturing the most frequent queries, and then are you
yeah.
like rating? You'd like doing like a quality rating, like bit. You have another
Yes,
language
yes.
model running, and saying like, hey, did I fulfill? Did my model successfully fulfill the query or not? And then if not, then what category was it? And then I look at the top categories, and then like, oh, okay, what can be good, and boop the next version. Like
So we're not running a critic model right now live while the queries are happening, because then like we are anyway like trying to cut down the cost significantly. So running a critic model with the GPT-4, but we did use, and like the reason for running right now, like earlier I was saying, like, the finding out routing model is very important for us. So what end up happening is the free version that we run is basically for us right now source of the data, right? So, and that is where so if you compare this thing with the let's say GPT free or Mid Journey, where if you identify the person who is an artist, who is a software developer, or who is a product manager, and giving the preferences, then probably you can categorize it better. But what if you cannot actually identify that, right? Then you become like a very generic job, which is fine, because from the scale of the computer and the talent that OpenAI has, like they can figure it out. What I am focusing on is like my vertical is agriculture. I Most of the people that are coming are either farmer or agronomists. So that is actually where they're making it easy for me to do topic modeling from the conversation that we have captured. And that is the some nuances that when the first version of Dhenu we trained, which was not the vision model but just the language model for the Indian agriculture practices, we did use around 100K of this instruction that has been curated. So there are a lot of things which is garbage, we have to just get rid of it. But then literally all of us together kind of went through this conversation, identify, kind of rated, did RLHF, meant like like literally people who with the agriculture knowledge actually went through the queries and curated this data set. And now that is basically helpful, because now we understand what kind of question actually get asked by the farmers and what are the answers that appropriate, like because that is also important. Because as like a tech person who may be looking into, or like a home gardener may be looking to say like, hey, how should I like my plant is not giving me any flowers, like there's no yield on flowers, so like, but then the word that farmer use would be completely different, right? He would be talking into like the jargons, he'll be talking into like very pinpointed questions. So we have seen like the question that come from, like it's very specific, right? Like if you're talking to a domain expert, the word and the nuances they use are completely different than the same thing that is someone's just learning figure out. So that is what we are trying to capture, and that is what I see that can be like going forward, like capturing the conversation in your platform. And if you're like a very vertical specific thing, you can actually separate out from the mass and say like, hey, I have vertical specific copilot running. I know my vertical very well. All the nuances I have captured in my model. So when you're using Dhenu is agri model and it understands farmers and agronomists well, and not care anything about else about basically. So this is what I see like like from my perspective, like we are having this debate where the models are getting bigger, they're going to get a lot smarter, like going forward. But then the thing is like, are they going to actually capture this nuances for every verticals, or the verticals need their smaller models very specifically trained for that purposes, right? So that is probably going to be the going forward, like the differentiation. Like there will be a category of like a very great general purpose model like GPT 4, 5, 6, and there will be like a vertical specific model. Like Harvey is also trying to train GPT 4, right? With they're working with OpenAI. We are working on agriculture model. I think there are some other people working on the law model or finance model, right? So this is something can separate out where there are smaller models for verticals and the large model, probably the critic models. Like you can think about it. So they're not very good for deployment in large because they are so huge, so it's very expensive. Your smaller model can do the task, and this critic model can then say like, hey, I see what's going on here, this is right, this is wrong. uh, I think that can be like a good natural progression that you don't have to deploy on the consumer base the large models, but they can, after the curation, they can be used as a critic model.
Indeed. I'm gonna just go into something on a tangent here, which is regulation, right? So internationally, different countries have approached regulation a little bit differently. And I think in March there was some proposal in India that all deployments of AI models should be like registered or something like that. Like what actually went down, and then I think it was revoked a little bit later. What actually went down in there? What was like the gossip on the ground on like what actually do the government actually end up implementing something, or they implemented and they pull back, or what actually happened?
Okay, so I think so that's a weird story. So it's like there was a tweet from Ministry of Electronics and Telecommunications MIT, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, and he talks about
As I think
like
Ram Rastogi, and he's the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, MITI of India.
yeah, MIT. So what ended up happening is there's a circular out which says, like, models within like next 15 days or like some 30 days have to kind of register and need to get approval to run. And it's not just the model, even the applications that are running on the model, right? But then everybody like me, we started so like, hey, this is not a way. I'm not going to kind of keep continue working because I do not have resources to go and do evaluation. Because like, this is the first day of this particular tweet out, right? So everybody started reacting, and our reaction was like, larger company can go through this regulation because they have contacts, they have how the rate taping works and all. It's not very transparent in most of the country, and like you need to have a lot of people look around it. So like for a smaller company like us, it doesn't work. Then maybe I have to stop working on this thing. Then a lot of people like in a startup, they reached out, tweeted, and then the clarification came that it was just an advisory because some IT law already prohibit people to create deep fakes and misinformation and things like that. So it is just an advisory. So ultimately, kind of, then I think they pulled it back and gave more clarification about that doesn't apply to the startups, that doesn't apply for some particular field. It's for mostly, and then it turned out to be it's like something before the election because the elections are going on right now, and people may misuse the models to generate misinformation. So it was like just some precautionary thing, but I think it was like just a like a premature thing without like thinking a lot. It's a knee-jerk reaction of some recent incident that happened with a Gemini doing something like a talking about bad about India, or I don't know, like I forgot what was the scene, but it did something was not kind of aligned with the how the
Was
thing.
not aligned with the greater power.
Kind of, yes. And
Yeah.
like the whole tone of the kind of right now, like the country goes through like a touching cycle. So right, there's a different cycle the India is right now. So yeah, I think so that was the thing. I think then they retracted back, and it's like not applied for startups or the models. Do evaluation. You are responsible. Start putting the pop-up. Say like AI. So which is now becoming coming back to like the standard thing that anyway OpenAI does it anyway, and so that was the thing. I think now they have created a think tank about it. My biggest worry for all this think tank is there are not the people who are actually building models and applications are on those think tanks, and all these are like a people with the gray hairs been part of the policy making and things like that, who already have contacts and they do not understand the journey at all. So this was the thing that they say like, hey, uh, every models need to be evaluated before it goes in production. So I tweeted like, do you even have eval set for us to do evaluation, like for which works in India, like so like this it need to be kind of in the premise of the rules and regulations of India, and the evaluation need to be submitted. Like, but who is going to provide evaluation? Are you going to change eval set every time a government changes, or there is a law change in the law? Who is going to maintain it? Who is going to be the authority to actually taste and approve this thing? So there is no plan because many of the people who are there do not actually understand how the whole system works. Basically, right? It's just an AI giving some answers, and you need to taste it, right? uh, and like going through this eval can kill a lot of startups basically, because like, you going to change dynamically? Do I have to keep fine tuning every time you find something, right? Or keep building a new models, like how expensive that can be. Like I'm not getting A100 access this day. Like I have like a 3 model in pipeline to be trained, and I'm like knocking doors to get access to GPUs. And then if someone comments like, hey, pass the URL, I'm going to just shut down my app every here and there because they will find something out. So it doesn't work. Like they need to have people who actually are knowledgeable inside, understand, who has worked, trained, build application to actually, you know, put the point of the startups or the company or model maker. And I think that is not there. I don't think it's there in US either. Like US is also, but US will figure it out. US figure it out all the time. Like whichever there are there are like people in the deep state or swam who are smart enough to figure out things if it's go wrong. India need those kind of there are very like a few people who actually have this understanding, but I don't think they can do everything. So hopefully they find some.
So, in that, like, For the past, I would say 20, 30 years, computer science has obviously been extremely popular in India, right? But now with ChatGPT, you can start to see that, even like, moderate kind of like people of moderate kind of, knowledge can start to do some of these computer science tasks and coding tasks on their own. So is there a little bit of like, is there a move for people to try and do machine learning or, kind of not study software, or has that impact in the student community? Like, and also TCS kind of made like its first cuts, I think, in like for years and whatnot. Like,
So right now everything is knee jerk reaction. Basically, they're just trying to figure out. Like everybody's like go through the flow. So the flow is like, okay, let's start learning open like this Chat GPT calls or this new library Llama Index, LangChain, and build some applications, and they are just happy by doing some calls. Uh, but all of this thing going to get automated. So India is going to get affected very well for the there is like a, there are very good engineers too, but there is like a whole mid and low layer developers that India produces, which works in this software developing companies, like outsourcing companies who can literally easily get replaced, like, you know for many agents even today. Like even the Devin and Devika and all other models are, or the agents are not that capable, but still they can replace a lot of the people that I have in my past work as like a part of someone doing outsourcing, and it's like, hey, no, you can't do anything. So this is going to definitely change. Now not everybody is going to, like, the number of software developer anyway will reduce, right? But then I see one important thing is, most of this low level or mid level people who are working in software development, they were not from computer science background. Like, TCS and all, they just go to any branch and say like, hey, I'll pick you, I'll give you 3 month training, I'll help you with some Java tutorial, and now you're a junior software developer, and I'll charge $25 to American companies for working. So
it reminds me of those Chris Ferry, like, quantum mechanics for babies books, and then you flip like 20 pages, and then at the end
uh,
they tell you like, now you're a quantum mechanics guy or a
yeah,
quantum engineer.
yeah. So TCS will throw like a smart engineer and nine, or not TCS, every all of them. Like TCS probably is a better one, but they'll throw one who are learning things like that, right? So all those nine probably will not need it for any of the software company. Maybe they can do with the two, right? And they may still charge for the project price. Now, what is going to happen with those eight? One thing which I see, and I think going to be important. Like we are already seeing the importance of high quality data. Like there are synthetic data being generated, and the domain specific data and all, but there will be always this thing where you are not, like, the Ouroboros stuff. Like I can generate a lot of synthetic data, but I'm not going to completely rely on synthetic data. Otherwise, like this AI eats AI data kind of thing can be, like, I don't know. I personally believe that it's not 100% going to work out. Now, what we do in that case, that we will need some domain experts. Now, all these people that we talked about who are working and developing code but came from the civil engineering or the chemical engineering or textile engineering, they can now go back to their basically field what they study for 4 years or whatever, and help out with the curation of this data. Because right now I'm looking for agronomists to help me out, like, uh, but surprisingly the people coming from agriculture degrees are paid well compared to the engineering degrees even in India, because there are not that many, and most of the chemical engineering companies or the fertilizer base, or even the companies who are like trying to run or build businesses, they actually hire them, so they get probably paid well for more than engineers in India. So all these people coming from different engineering can go back, bring their domain knowledge, and help me out with this data that has been synthetically produced, and say like, this is right, wrong, do some RLHF stuff, add some nuances, help me out so I can create like very domain specific models, right? Now, probably they will not have to write, so will not need those many of those, but still there will be like a good amount of domain expert will be needed. And I think that is going to be the natural progression. right now that is also kind of service, a knowledge service. Like, people, scale AI has been doing on a large scale, right? Like, they are the one of the hidden secret behind success of most of the models. But that is something that can be very important in terms of, say, hey, like, I'll give you the base curated agriculture data because I have figured out how to generate it synthetically, have a domain expert, and you have millions of or thousands of PDFs in your organization. How are you going to do it? Are you going to hire in California? No. Okay, so there is a company here in India who will do it for you. So that can be a good business model, and I think many people are thinking about it. But then it's like, it's a new, it's also like a different, it's not a status quo of how a services business work. So not many people are serious in terms of even like funding, financing people like a SaaS business, because SaaS will give you multiplier and all. But if I say I'm going to create like a some scale AI type of business for one or two or three verticals, then people will not think about it. It's like, hey, this is like a service business you're doing. So this is something going to be kind of change. Indian will be from software developer to knowledge workers, but there will be a drastic change in this industry for sure.
Indeed. I want to ask because so one of the things that I think in the US has been happening is this whole thing about immigration this year.
Oh,
So so in terms of like like and I think Sri Ramakrishnan would be at A16Z. He did kind of a kind of like a thing with Dedi on his H1B and green card process, etc. So are you in that green card process right now? Are you post green card, etc.?
so we are post green card. So I have another like so everybody in US who migrate, they have their own like immigration stories. Like, everybody is different, and all the friends I know have some kind of ups and downs and things like that. But for us, we recently got like I think 2 years back. But I've been here in US since 2006. Finished my PhD in 2013. So probably I was eligible for EB1 in the early days. But the problem I had was that I was always part of a startup, smaller startup, and sponsoring EB1 was like almost impossible at that point. Like, I could, and in early days, like right now, EB1 and O1 has become like a uh, like another, like a student visa kind of thing. Like, anybody's kind of, people are figuring out, they are running seminars and webinars to how to get EB1 and O1, because looks like the USCIS has been very lenient. But early days, even the EB1 and O1 used to get rejected. If you have like a, I know some folks who have like a really great like research background and even a patent, and they got rejected because the inspector on the other side was, I don't know what was his thinking. But for me, I was in a OPT after, like, the OPT, and I never went to on H1 at all because I was in startup. So I worked on this OPT period. Then there was like E1 EB H1B EAD thing, right, for the spouses. So my wife has a H1, and the
It's an
thing was,
employment authorization document for the spouse after
yes,
you successfully apply for a green card or something, or H1B,
yeah, yeah,
H1B,
yeah,
yeah, something like that. Yeah.
H1B, yes. So what, and so I had a choice, either go and get a H1 where I cannot do a startup or I cannot run my own business. But the EAD has this clause where you can actually have your own business. There is no restriction. H1 has this thing where you have to work for one employer. EAD did not. So like, that's a perfect. I will stay on EAD for my life until we go to a company where, like, they're big enough to kind of sponsor EB1 and all. So I kept doing my last. Then before I realized, like, that, like, I'm ready there to apply for EB1, I got through H1B through my wife's process, got the green card. So, but it took us how many years? So I was in US 2006, and we got our green card in 2020. So it's like a 16 years after being in US, right? Probably being illegal, I could have got earlier. And the most surprising thing, the one of the thing, I have no problem, like, I'm okay to wait. I'm staying here legally. Like, I'm in my career, I have worked in terms of like a good project where I was in Ohio. We have like this Wright Peterson Air Force Base. There's an Air Force Research Lab, and I was like working on outside with the project. So it's not that like I can go outside and flaunt my resume and say like, hey, I work on some like a good project for the country. But I was like not in a hurry. I was like always focus on what I'm building. Say okay, whenever we'll get. My wife was in hurry. Like she was like not happy with this H1 process and all. But my biggest thing was going to the DMV. In the DMV, when you go in California, anyway, this sucks a lot. Like that's like the worst story is we have Santa Clara DMV just like across my house. Apple campus is like a 2 blocks there. Nvidia is like a like a 2 miles on the other side. Everyone like this is like a El Camino and Lawrence intersection. So it's like a 10 trillion economy around this one. Everything got invented, and that DMV has just a one single camera for your photo like a uh, driving license application, single camera, and it takes 4 hours because you have to go one line, two line, three line, four line, and there's a camera line with 20 people, 20, 30 people anytime standing there to take a picture. It's like we are living in the center of Silicon Valley. This Santa Clara DM, we have just one single. So now the thing is, when you are immigrant, your license get approved only for some months until your EAD and things expire. So every here and there, every 9 months, you have to keep going to renew it 4 hours, 4 hours, and that's was one of the thing. It's like okay, this is something, and then the immigration is something also important. Like
So,
when
so
you're
your driver's
entering.
license also expires with your
Oh
kind of
yes,
immigration sweetness.
yeah. So the
Interesting.
story is like the DMV did not, and then they give you like a 3 month permit, and if it's expired and you still haven't got your driving license, you go and renew the permit. So I renewed 3 times 9 months. Then I started like almost got so angry in the DMV, and he's saying like, hey, driving is not your right, it's your privilege. And what else, there was something funny he said that I told
Driving
him
ed.
like, so California has this law, if you are illegal immigrant you can get a driving license actually, no question asked, you show your living proof. I said like, can I do this thing? Can I just say I'm illegal and give you my living proof, you give me driving license? I don't want to come every 3 months and wait 4 hours. So it's like, and then he doesn't have an answer, right? Because it will be easier for me to get a 10-year driving license by just showing like I'm illegal, I don't have anything, give me this my address proof. That'd be easier in California to get a driving license for immigrant who is like working, living, paying huge amount of taxes. We do not have any privileges. It get every 6 months or 9 months. If your OPT or H1 or getting expired, you have to go and renew or keep license.
Right.
Yeah, that sucks.
It's amazing. So okay, one last question. So you had you had a tweet, I think maybe about sometime last year. It's been about a year, and you said start regularly recording your fans, elders, and loved ones with enough transcript data, new voice synthesis, and video models. There's a 100% chance that they will live with you forever after leaving physical body. This should even be possible by the end of the year.
Oh yeah,
And
my predictions are very not time bound. I should not say year, but you see, like you are we are on a podcast with Avatar, right? AI Avatar, who's like literally speaking, and now the part that is like also like so this is what is happening. I don't. This tweet actually got very popular, not like infamous. I was kind of asked by every big people were reaching out to me in my DMs for interview, and I got like asked 20,000 times to kill myself. But I don't know why it got nowed. But like I'm just posting, like I'm like like on my Twitter account. Like if I will never publish my Twitter account on my LinkedIn, because then I'll never have a customer, because I'll just like talk anything that come in my mind. And at that point it was the same thing, because I was seeing like all this natural progression of voice synthesis and 11 labs, and like there's a wave to live came out. We were doing some wave to live project at that time, where you will literally kind of make a my like take a picture of me like that. We can do it anyway, like a lip sync thing. This was like April last year, right? And we ran a project just for creating content for India. Our goal was to create material where many books are not available in all the languages. So how about can we actually create a transcript? So we were working with some models, and the same time I had like this story where my grandmother wanted to meet my daughter, because she was like the first girl child in our family after a long time, and she died like 2 weeks before we reached. And I was like, this kind
oh,
of thing which I would like
this was during
thing
the
where I
COVID era, like just
no, before that, it was
for COVID.
2019. But my regret was that I never recorded her significant amount of voice that I can actually clone it to hear her voice sometime. Now, what's wrong with like so for me even today I don't feel that sometime as her birthday and all hearing her voice talking to me is like wrong, but that's a like very touchy topic today even at that point. But at that point it was probably too early for me to speak. Now it's becoming very regular, right? You are people are recreating Steve Jobs and all the dead folks and other, and now people are getting okay because this like a time kind of change everyone's perception. Slowly they're going to start seeing in the brain, and then it will become acceptable for them to talk to the people who already passed. I was just too early to say that, but it's going to happen. Like maybe last year was probably one of the biggest thing was many actually model came out. We can do very nice cloning. Like Meta has one, OpenAI just talked about it, but nobody's releasing the weight. And if you look at the probably, I don't know, they read my tweet or not, but this was the thing where they are actually afraid that people will start cloning. There are like misuse and all things like that. But if you can have actually enough transcript, like recording of anyone's voice, you can just literally recreate it. And I don't know, this will be possible anyway. Someone will do it. Like I had many people reaching out with this thing about grief, like so there are many every people deal with the grief differently. Some people want to completely forget, some people want to slowly go down on that, and many people who reached out in DM after that it is like we like this thing because we also have sudden loss, and I could have spent some more time and slowly go down on the grief curve. And it will be possible. I think it's uncanny valley. But what else, like right now the way we are going, it's like our personal choice for anyone to kind of use this technology or not, right? And there will be like always people on right
So
left.
yeah,
We have
I think the first one that I saw was I think a concert maybe 6 7 years ago. Someone had a Tupac avatar,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and they had a Tupac avatar, and kind of he had an unreleased song that they completed also. And I don't know how they did the voice. But they handmade the voice, right? They handmade the
Ah,
voice, and then they put it together. And now of course like that is easily doable. That the voice clone is easily doable. Um, a facial clone is also kind of easily doable, but the quality is not the quality is still a
did
little
you
bit poor.
see this new Microsoft model that they announced? So the wave to lip and the lip syncing thing, they solved it really well, basically. So now there is like a no blurry lines between the lip when they're talking.
Well, not
So
only that, but that was real time. So they're
real
generating in
time,
real time. So 40 frames per second on a 4090 on a
yeah,
consumer GPU, and from single photo.
correct.
So yeah.
So
So
yeah, so it is like the way we were seeing. Remember, like in Star Wars, like it was normal when people did it in Star Wars, where you have like someone's cassette holding down and you're talking to that person, passing some messages, right? So that is what it is, right? Basically, like you have, and the context window is something important too because and so no, so the last part in the tweet, which was kind of something you think about, is like recreating someone's thought, like yeah, you cannot talk to some person because they're like it's very complex thing. But like if you have enough context in terms of how they talk, what kind of word they regularly use, how they greet you, and like your personal conversation, which like see a human can be a complex person because he or she talks to 1,000 10,000 people. But when they talk to me, there is like a one slice of their brain which kind of accustomed to talking to me, and the same thing in my brain, right? Now that part can be smaller because like you and my interaction, let's say how many times we have met, we know exactly what we talked about, our remarks is. So if I have that context, and if I continue using the AI model and say like, hey, this is what we were talking last time, what about this and this, then it's possible. Like I'm not recreating the whole person for talk who like with the memory of 10,000 folks they have been in contact with during their life. But for one person it is basically possible if we have enough context kind of captured, and it can be very high level generic stuff, right? And we can do it
so
right
it
now.
it
Just
reminds me of you know the Shoggoth meme of the big
yeah, yeah,
creature inside ChatGPT. and all you see is the face, the nice little smiley face at the front. And you don't see the big creature behind it. So in some sense, we are all that way, where we only present one facade, one
True.
face to someone, and they only see that one face, even though there's a complex and multifaceted persona behind that facade. They only see that single facade. And replicating that single facade might not actually be that difficult. You're replicating the complex persona, that
Yeah,
multifaceted, might be extremely difficult.
yeah, and the whole person, like the complex person, is not just like a of your thoughts or knowledge and memory. It's also a lot of time, it's like, oh, so many things are hormone driven, right? How you gonna recreate that part? Because like in a different time, different mood, different, like your weather changes your mood, your hunger changes your mood, and your answer for one question would be different if you're hungry or not. So those things are going to be very difficult to kind of replicate. But me and you, when we have conversation at the blast and brew, we can all recreate that one if we want to kind of if we have recorded all of them. So I think that is what kind of it meant, like, but like it became very complex. I don't regret but doing that. But I say, I think I could have done it today and nobody have noticed probably.
Indeed. Pratik, thank you so much for your time today, and best of luck to you and to Kissan.
Thank you. Hey, thank you very much.
Emergent Behavior is a part of the Turpentine Network. For our full newsletter, visit emergentbehavior.co. For more Turpentine podcasts and sponsorship inquiries, visit turpentine.co